There was a very interesting study done a few years ago that found that people who belong to a community and who participate in some way in that community at least once a month, that such people live on average 7 years longer than those who don't, are happier, and more charitable. I thought to myself that should be the best marketing program we could ever have for the Jewish community because it shows how life enhancing and wonderful community can be. And that's a lesson that the Jewish people have known for so long. And that's part of why our value this month, Ahavat Yisrael, a love of Israel, a sense of belonging, is so important. In Judaism, belonging is as important, if not even more so, than believing. To feel a sense that we are part of a community, we are part of a people, we are part of a culture that began long before us and will continue long after us. That is an extraordinary feeling. And it's powerful whether we are in kindergarten or in our 90s. In fact, at my synagogue, we just did a march of the Torahs from our old building, we're combining to a new building. And there were half a dozen people in their 90s in the march, and there were 2 and 3-year-olds. And that brought a sense of belonging and community to everyone who participated. It was incredible. So what does it mean to be part of a community? To have an Ahavat Yisrael, a sense of belonging to the Jewish people. And this is true whether we were born Jewish, whether we chose Judaism, whether we are in the process of choosing Judaism, or whether we're simply connected to the Jewish people in some way. Maybe we're married to somebody Jewish. All of us are part of the Jewish community. All of us need to commit ourselves to this value of Ahavat Yisrael. So what does that mean, that sense of belonging? The first is that we have a sense of responsibility. That when we belong to something, we need to show up and do our part. People rely on us. If you think about a sentence is incomplete if it's missing a word. A word is incomplete if it's missing a letter. A paragraph is incomplete if it's missing a sentence. We all need to be there. When we're part of a community, it's incomplete without us. So being responsible, knowing when others count on us. I know it's very interesting that people who have a workout buddy tend to be much more disciplined in doing their workout than those who don't, because they know someone else is relying on them. So when we are part of a community, we need to be responsible and know that others rely on us. Second thing is that we have to stand up for others. We have to help others in need. There's a teaching, it's in the Talmud, called where it says, Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Lezeh, which essentially means the people of Israel are responsible for one another. So when something happens to a Jewish community in China, there is a small Jewish community, or when something happens to the Jewish community in Panama, we have a responsibility to act and to help others. That's been one of the beautiful parts of Judaism, is that we have this sense of responsibility and connection to people all over the world. We have to stand up for them. When something happens in Israel, it's part of our psyche. It matters to us because we are part of one community. That's a spiritual principle. It's not always self-evident or obvious, but it's true, and it's been true for thousands of years. The third part of belonging is that we can be lovingly critical. If something happens in Israel, and maybe there's a government corruption or actions that we don't think reflect our values, we can be critical, but we have to be lovingly critical. We have to remember that we're part of the same family. We're part of one community, one people. It's a community with many hearts and with different points of view. And true communities can be critical of one another, but we're critical knowing that we're in this together. Fourth part of being part of a community, having a sense of belonging, is that we have to accept imperfections. None of us are perfect. The beautiful thing about a community is that it can be difficult, it can be complex, it can be hard. That's part of the beauty of it. God creates the entire world in 3 chapters, and I think something like 40 verses. It takes the Jewish people over 1,000 verses to create a small portable tabernacle in the wilderness. So the creation of the world, 40 verses. The creation of a small tabernacle, over 1,000 verses. It's because the tabernacle is created by people coming together, people with different points of view, people who have to negotiate, people who oftentimes don't get along perfectly. We have to accept that. We have to accept our imperfections and still work together. The fifth is that we have to take opportunities to grow in our community, to contribute to our community. We can visit Israel when we have an opportunity. We can study Judaism as you're doing now. We can celebrate Shabbat. We can come together with other families. We can be part of community rallies and activities. All of that is contributing in whatever way we can to the community, because that's what sustains a community. In the Talmud, there's a beautiful teaching, Al tifros min hatzibor, do not separate yourself from the community. I think the ancient rabbis knew 2,000 years ago what social science has reaffirmed today. Community makes us happier, it makes us more fulfilled, and it leads us to a better life. And we have the blessings of Jewish community that surround us. Shalom.